He's the former president and publisher of the Sun Herald, and now he's on the radio. Welcome to Coast View with Ricky Matthews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome to Coast View, the show that celebrates the men and women who are making coastal Mississippi a better place to live, work, and play. And in this COVID environment, I think some of the most critical leaders on the coast are from the education arena. And we have one of the top leaders from the education arena, Glenn East, who's the superintendent of schools for Gulfport Schools, with us today. How you doing, Glenn? Doing
well, Ricky, and yourself?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you very much. Hey, listen, before we get into all the, well, actually, I think embedded in this question is going to be COVID. But I am curious, have you been able to enjoy your summer at all?
I will tell you that we had our grandchildren from Thursday to this past Sunday, and that's really been the only deviation I've had this summer. It's been pretty much work, and try to figure all this out with every change and every piece of data, how to make it work for this fall.
There is, as you and I were talking about offline, there seems to be almost daily new information or data that you have to bring into your plan. So, I mean, when we talk about an iterative plan, in other words, a plan that's ever changing, the iterations of this plan have to be unbelievably dynamic.
And you say daily, I will tell you this almost hourly, that something comes up that you can make a shift. And when you're talking about the safety of children and the safety of their teachers, those hourly decisions become more and more important the closer we get to the beginning of school.
I know that's got to be the case. So you're still marching toward an opening date, but what you're doing is you're making significant adjustments that enable a homeschool aspect to it using technology. We've got a couple of segments, so we really want to kind of go through it. So why don't we do this? Why don't you kind of paint a picture of what the overall school year is looking like at this point, and then we'll go back a little bit and say, okay, now what's the process you guys have gone through? What's the data points you're taking a look at? What's some of the basic assumptions that are part of your plan? But why don't you kind of give people sort of an overview of what the school year looks like at this point?
So here's where we are, Ricky. We're going to have what we call a traditional start, which is nothing like a traditional start this time last year. Our children will come to school. They will be in a classroom in the K through 8 environment. For the most part, they will be in that one classroom all day, and the teachers will move to them. So they'll have their math, science, English, social studies teachers. In the elementary world, their art teacher, the librarian, the counselor that does programs will come to the classroom, so that you don't have all these children in the hallway changing classes. In the middle school, it'll be almost the same, but we have a plan now for letting them go to their electives. It'll be a system where there's going to be one way around, so you don't have that massive class change of 700 or 800 kids at the same time. So about 25% will change classes. It's a one-way street, following both of those systems, following those CDC protocols: distance, mask, constant hand washing, keeping your congested areas uncongested. And then for those parents there who are still fearful, or for parents who have children with some underlying conditions, or even family members with underlying conditions, we have a full-time virtual piece where students will be in class all day long. They'll check in with their teacher, and they'll be just like they're in the classroom. We call it school-to-home learning. But their teacher will ask them questions, they'll be able to ask their classmates questions, and so on through the course of the school day. So those students will receive their education through Zoom education, our Google platform, and what we call a synchronistic probing using a product called Swivel, where the teacher actually moves around the room, it follows her like those kids are still in the classroom. So those are our main two things as we're going into the school year.
Man, that's so interesting how, you and I talked about this before, how technology is really enabling us to develop plans to be able to live in this strange new world we're in. Hey, one of the things that you just mentioned that I didn't really give much thought to, but it helps you really understand the complexity of the planning you guys are engaged in, which, for example, students staying in the same classroom and the teacher's moving, and why you had to do that, because you didn't want all the kids, when the bell rings, going out into the hallway together. You just don't consider those things. The complexity of this is sort of like getting an NFL schedule to work.
Exactly right.
Unbelievable, isn't it?
It is, and it's Ricky. You and I were teenagers once too, and we know we got to gravitate towards each other. So solving those problems and understanding we're trying to still be social. Human beings are social people, but being able to take care of that piece during the school day and let them know that, look, you've still got to stay 6 feet away, and these are some things we can do to help you. One, just to keep the spread of this virus from going all over our city, and two, to keep the children in a learning environment every day and not have to worry about that spread causing them to lose an educational day or whatever the case may be.
So let's go back. We'll come back to some of the details of this, but let's come back just a little bit and say, okay, what are the things you're having to keep in mind? Let's talk about some of the major assumptions as you begin to move toward the school year and as you sort of develop your overall plan. Talk to me about some of the assumptions.
The biggest situation we have to deal with is the medical piece. It's a safety piece. So we have school nurses in every one of our buildings. We have a doctor that's on call for us. They've been meeting all summer. They were meeting back in the spring. How do we best take care of our children on a daily basis? So that group of people and their conversations are helping guide the medical piece. So for example, from that group, every teacher is going to have a thermometer. There's a pre-activity check. They're going to go through, does mom or dad have COVID, or have you been around some? And then we're going to check that temperature not only once, but during the course of the day. If a child has a fever from that group, they're going to have to go home immediately. In the old days, we might put them down in the nurse's place and give them some Tylenol or whatever the case may be, but they're going to have to go home immediately. So all that kind of comes from the medical world. Then you have the parent world. Is my child going to be safe? What are you doing to keep him or her safe? I'm still fearful. What are the options? So all of those kind of assumptions are coming up, and you're trying to address them with the main thing of keeping children safe, teachers safe, but also continual learning. So everything we do is still about what is best for children. What decision do we make that is best for children every time that we make a decision? And so that's expanded from education to that medical world, or the health world, if you will, that we have to deal with on a daily basis. So we think we have some good answers. And because of the parent input, the medical input, the teacher input, we think we have some good answers for taking care of our kids and being able to mitigate as we go forward.
So before we move to other assumptions, talk about the teachers, and the efforts underway to make them feel safe. So if I'm a teacher and I say, man, I hear all this and I'm not there. Convince me how I can get there.
So the first thing we have for teachers is first they'll have their mask. We're going to keep the social distancing, the hand washing for them as well. The adult world is most acceptable in this situation. We have to recognize that at this point. But we also have this virtual component where we will have some teachers that will be teaching students virtually at home. We also have a system in place. For example, maybe you and I are both ninth grade English teachers, and you are fearful, or you had a bad moment in a social emotional world where your grandmother has come down with COVID and you need to take care of her. Then I would shift to the virtual teaching of your class, so that we can take care of each other in the education world. That means that in our district, we're going to place a teacher assistant in that room, but I'm going to follow the same schedule that you and I have been following all along. So first period, you're taking care of yourself as a teacher, and I'm teaching both of those classes through this virtual concept that we have, to give teachers comfort that at least that they know we have a backup in case something happens. And there's fear in the adult world too. I mean, we have to battle through that and make plans to adjust to that piece while continuing to take care of our kids.
It's so complex, isn't it? I mean,
it really is. And it's like you said, the first off, it's so fluid. Something changes every day or every hour. So you think you have a good plan in place, and then something else comes up. And it's just a matter of adjusting as you go. And look, we're strong American people. We're used to dealing with things, gonna make it work and come out on the end. So that's kind of what we're holding our banner, if you will, to say we're gonna take care of this and make it work for our teachers.
So I'm assuming for teachers and others that are actually working in the school that there's some training, probably significant training that's underway.
There has been, but there will be more as we get closer to the school day. We ran that summer program at Gulfport High School for our K through 8 students, small class size and teachers. So for the kids, it was a great experience. For us as a school district, it also helped teach us a lot. Fortunately, we didn't have any outbreaks during that summer session. We kept it small. We did what we were supposed to do CDC, but we've also learned the importance of masks. We've also learned that, yes, a kindergartner will keep his mask on all day if they understand why they're doing it. We've learned how to better do the grab-and-go lunch and breakfast program during that time. So, yes, as we've adjusted, we've had some things that we've done during the summer that we hope will make us better in the long run and help the decision process at the school sites run smoother with some background knowledge that we didn't have back in May.
So much to think about. You mentioned lunches, and when we come back, let's talk about other assumptions and also the whole concept of why lunch programs and breakfast programs are so important to so many students, and how do you continue that if a kid decides to stay home for any number of reasons. But anyway, this is Glenn East, the superintendent of schools for Gulfport School System, and we'll come back after this break and continue to sort of walk through these really complex and important conversations that they're having to develop their plan so that we can get back in school and kids can learn again. We'll be back after this break.
Listen live or on demand and watch episodes of Coast View on your laptop, desktop, or on your phone or tablet by going to supertalkmsgulfcoast.com.
SuperTalk. Nobody keeps Mississippi informed like we do. With 12 stations covering all 82 counties. If it happens in your state, we're on top of it. The news, the weather, the sports, and the talk that's important to you. The issues that matter to you, your family, and your bank account. It's all right here. And when you're away from home, depend on the SuperTalk app and supertalk.fm to stay in the know. We're proud to serve our fellow Mississippians. SuperTalk, Mississippi.
You could be spreading the coronavirus without realizing you have it, so do your part and stay home. It's important to limit in-person interaction with anyone outside of your immediate household, but phone and video chat are safe ways to connect. It's also important to limit social gatherings. If you need essential items like food and medicine, try using a delivery service. If you must leave your house for essential items, or if you want to take a walk for exercise, make sure to wear a cloth face covering. Stay at least 6 feet away from other people. Try not to touch frequently touched surfaces like light signals, street signs, or benches. And wash your hands with soap and water for at least 20 seconds as often as possible. This advice applies to people of any age, including teens and younger adults. It takes all of us to slow the spread of the coronavirus, so stay home unless absolutely necessary. Visit coronavirus.gov for the latest information.
This is House Call for Health. Medical researchers spend years developing drugs to treat cancer, but it's possible the next big cancer-fighting breakthrough could already be in your medicine cabinet. Scientists have long known that a drug for one ailment can sometimes be effective in treating something else. Aspirin is the most famous example. Researchers at Harvard, MIT, and the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute tested more than 4,500 existing medications. They found 48 drugs that killed at least some cancer cells. These drugs are for several different conditions, including diabetes, inflammation, and alcoholism. One drug is used for treating arthritis in dogs. Researchers in the journal Nature Cancer said the medications sometimes worked in different ways than mainstream cancer drugs. Now they hope these drugs can be further developed into true new weapons against cancer. For more health news, go to foxnewshealth.com. House Call for Health. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News.
Whether you're a Rebel, a Bulldog, a Golden Eagle, or just a sports fan, SuperTalk Mississippi has got a podcast for you. For you. Sports Talk Mississippi, The Rebel Report, Thunder and Lightning, the SuperTalk Eagle Hour, and The Borky Show are all now available for you. And it's all free. Get them all on demand at supertalk.fm and on your smartphone. Just search for SuperTalk on iTunes, Google Play, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Talking to the people that help make the coast such a unique place to live. This is Coast View with Ricky Matthews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coast View. Coming up in the next segment, we have Stephen McRaney, who's the Deputy Director of MEMA, the Mississippi Emergency Management Agency. And we're going to talk about the hurricane season and the work that they're doing around COVID still. It's going to be a terrific conversation, really timely because, as most of the experts say, this hurricane season will be a nail biter, a kind of strap on your seatbelt kind of season. And let's hope that we don't have to deal with anything like that during this COVID environment. We don't want that anyway, but the COVID situation is going to make it more complicated. Anyway, we're going to continue our conversation with Glenn East, who's the superintendent of schools for the Gulfport School System. Several things I want to still talk about, but let's stay focused for a second on the assumptions that you guys had to deal with related to getting the school system back. And so what are the critical assumptions that you had to think about?
There's really three. First is a simple one to answer is children need to go outside and play and do recess. And how do you do that and keep them social distance? So during the course of the day, that will happen. That'll be one of the times that they're free from that classroom. Lunches, how do you serve breakfast and lunch and stay socially distanced and also worry about your congestion and so on? So in our district, our kindergarten and first graders will actually go to the cafeteria and spread out and have lunch as we normally would. They just won't be next to each other. Our second through 12th graders will have a situation where they'll grab and go. Their lunch will be delivered on a hot plate or in a styrofoam plate. We're actually looking at a washable all green plate that I can use, and then we can wash them at the end of the day. Those will be delivered to their classroom. They'll go to their classroom. So again, we're trying to keep that spread from happening across the whole school. So those are the two things that have been somewhat easy to solve. Our biggest issue right now is how to get them to school. And I will tell you or any parent that calls, we're going to run our school buses, but we really need parental help to get kids to and from school. So we can only have 2 to a seat. You can't be moving around. So you're trying to make sure your school buses are safe. It's cut into 2 or 3 routes in the morning, which means you're spending more time transporting than you are educating. So we're opening schools earlier. Our elementary schools will be open as early as 6:15, 6:30, so that parents on the way to work can drop them off. We'll have teachers there. They can to take care of the kids. We're also leaving them open later, so parents on the way home from work can pick them up. We need that help with keeping the census down on our school buses. So that's the one issue that we've really been battling through and listen to parent input. They want us to provide buses. They want us to take care of the kids, but they also understand their need to more often than not, help get the children to school. So I really see some days of some carpooling. We got 4 kids in the car like we used to. On the bus, our kids will have to wear masks just like they do at school. Every bus driver is going to have a thermometer. They'll do that check as they get on. And then the whole issue of what if you have a student that has a temperature that morning? So we've defined a sick seat. And as soon as they get off the bus, they'll go to the sick area and the nurse. And again, we're going to have to call a parent to come up immediately as quickly as possible, within 30 minutes of all, to get that child and get them back home to an environment where they can't spread COVID. So all of those are assumptions we've had to look at this summer to take care of our children.
So let's face it, Glenn, we know before COVID, too many parents probably knew their kid was sick before they took them to school or they got on that bus, but they had to go to work. And they were thinking, well, I hate to say it this way, I'm going to pass this problem to somebody else to deal with. And this environment, that's not going to happen.
It's going to be different, Ricky. And that's one of those biggest issues that we're dealing with. If a child has a fever, our school nurses would pull them down. We'll get parent permission to give them whatever they need medication-wise and bring that fever down. But in this world, that fever triggers something much worse. So we have a fever protocol that parents will have to see and sign. They'll have to be fever-free 3 days without medication before they can return. Things we've never done before. So yes, we're gonna disrupt some family lives trying to take care of a community spread for the city of Gulfport and the Gulfport School District.
Which is to say, that for our kids to get educated in this environment, we need the entire community to work together. And I mean everyone, especially employers. Employers have to recognize that we don't have the as you pointed out, we don't have the luxury of sending a kid to the nurse and just kind of hanging on to them there at school for the rest of the school day. There are protocols that have to be executed, and the employers along the coast really need to understand that if you have workers who have kids and well, this is probably true of public school or private school that are in school, that they've got to be super flexible and understanding to help these parents deal with the situation, because that usually is what the problem is. You have an employer that's being too strict and not really working with their employee, and puts the employee under a lot of stress, and then they have to make decisions that are probably not in the best interest of the school. And you see this all the time. We just got to work together, aren't we?
We really are, and I know employers also have there's that economy piece. So we have to keep rolling. I'm going to tell you something else that I'm going to see differently coming through, I think, this fall too, is, you always had that neighborhood lady or that neighborhood family that kind of took care of us when we were sick and mom and dad did have to go to work. I see some of that kind of resurfacing. I see some carpooling where, that family's going to stick together, and they're going to test their kids with the thermometer. They're going to make sure they're not sick, and they're going to get them to school. Things that we know how to do, we're just going to have to pull off the shelf and kind of redo as we go forward and take care of our children, and also our city and our community and the school district.
So I want to shift gears a bit, and this may actually help other schools that are not part of your district, that may be private schools or whatever. Let's talk a little bit about the technology you're using. Is this off-the-shelf technology that enables this sort of live remote teaching and checking in and all that? What did it cost? Where did it come from? Talk to me about that.
So what we've moved to is we've always had Google platform. We even use that in our regular brick and mortar building before March the 13th as a way for students to do work and show work. When we went into the spring, it was that kind of work. And so the teachers were using their cell phone to call. We would use a Zoom meeting or whatever the case may be. This is not a new product. It's called Swivel. And what it does is it takes that Zoom education platform and it makes the teacher appear to be in class with the children, and the children be in class with the other students. So they're keeping their distance in the classroom. They're able to look at Ricky Matthews and say, Ricky, what's 3 + 3? And you say 5, and little junior sitting at home says, no, that's supposed to be 6. So you have that actual conversation going on with the students, with the teacher, in the class, and also at home. So it's not a new technology. It's a technology that we have learned how to expand and use better. And then the Swivel is a concept that is kind of new to us, to make the class more relationship built. Education is about being able to have communication with children and talking to children, not just a book. And so that Swivel gives it that personal relationship piece going forward. We're still going to battle the problems of connectivity with some of our students that choose that route. So we're trying to make sure we can do those things as well. Again, one of those fluid situations that you have to deal with on a daily basis. But we really believe that there's going to be a portion of our students that are going to choose virtual. We already know the numbers are beginning to increase. And again, we just want our teachers to be able to look in the face of their student and say everything's going to be okay. And let's learn math or science or whatever subject I'm responsible for teaching, and doing it in a way that seems more personal.
So let me ask you a question on the technology. Is it recording and archiving the classroom
at the end
sessions?
of the day? Yes. But see, during the day is you and I will get up and we'll follow the same schedule we would with our classmates that are in brick and mortar. And then that teacher will teach a lesson for probably 20 or 25 minutes. And then there'll be that work that they do in class. And then the teacher will close out that class again. So it's just like they're in school. At the end of the day, those teachers will archive it to our website. You can go on now and see already some of the videos that we're making for those skills we know that children struggle with. So we've been doing that all summer as well. But the point is, at the end of the day, the parent can go back and see that teacher's lesson on that topic. A plus for us is you may have an Anniston teacher that's doing it. There may be a Pass Road teacher that's teaching the same subject. So you may get two. You can go on the website and see 2 different versions of how we're teaching that same skill. So all of that will be available to our parents and our students through our website.
I still, every single day on national media, you still see a debate that's occurring about whether kids should go back to school or not. You got some people in this camp that we're in a pandemic, we need to keep everything locked down. And of course, there are others that say, boy, if we don't get kids back in school, the negatives associated with that are going to far outreach the pandemic situation. You're obviously in the camp that we got to get kids back in school. Yeah.
I think we got to get kids back to learning. And that's why we've come up with, we may go 100% virtual, Ricky, but because parents choose that method. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
So we're trying to give you the opportunity of what is your family, what precautions are you taking? Do you believe in brick and mortar, so come to school? But also, if you don't, or you have that underlying health condition, we have that piece too. So we're really giving parents the choice to answer that debate, if you will, in their own mind. There's a lot of social emotional stuff that's out there right now about children needing to be back in school, needing to be in their groups. I think that's all important. For us, this is about just taking kids and letting parents make that choice if they need to in the final analysis. I believe we'll probably have at least a quarter of our kids will be virtual at least for a semester until we prove that we're doing the protocols correctly, we're doing what we need to do to take care of our kids at school. Social distancing, washing your hands, masks, watch out for your congested areas, those things that we just all have to do. So that's where we are.
Let me tell you,
choice.
I love the way you said that. It's not a push to get back to school. It's a push to get back to learning. But we're at the end of our time together. Next time we come back together, we'll talk again in a couple of weeks. We'll dive a little bit deeper into the athletics piece and other stuff that you're having to really think about and debate. And we'll continue the conversation. Thank you so much for your passionate leadership. The Coast really appreciates you, I can tell you.
Thank you, Rick. I got some great teachers that work with me. It makes my job a lot of fun every day.
Okay, buddy. Take care.
Thank you.
We'll be back. We'll be back after this break.
Subscribe for free to the Coast View podcast on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, want to come work for the #1 radio group on the coast? TeleSouth Media has a great opportunity for an outside sales consultant. Get paid while having fun and work in the exciting, fast-paced world of radio. We have award-winning stations like 97.9 CPR Rocks, 105.9 The Monkey, G96.7, SuperTalk 103.1, and 103.5 The Possum. Take the first step towards a new and rewarding career. Submit your resume to Jesse@telesouth.com. That's JESSE@telesouth.com. TeleSouth Media is an equal employment opportunity employer.
If a muckety muck wants you to hear what they gotta say, they come here first and sit down with Gallo and JT. This is ground zero for all Mississippi muckety mucks. Super Talk Mississippi. Watch your favorite Super Talk shows in HD. Just go to supertalktv.com. Ever wonder what goes on in the studio during the shows? Now you can watch what happens in HD. Super Talk TV, streaming now on supertalktv.com.
We know that we're asking Americans to do a lot right now. So we're asking everyone to be selfless for others so that we can protect those who are most susceptible to this virus.
A question I often get asked is, why should young people care about the spread of coronavirus? Well, we know that people with underlying medical conditions over the age of 60 are at highest risk, but they've got to get it from somebody.
Social distancing is really physical separation of people.
It's what we refer to when we ask people to stay at least 6 feet apart.
Not going to bars, not going to restaurants, not going to theaters where there are a lot of people. It all just means physical separation so that you have a space between you and others who might actually be infected or infect you.
We all have a role to play in preventing person-to-person spread of this disease, which can be deadly for vulnerable groups. For more information on how you can social distance, please go to coronavirus.gov.
Hey, I'm Steve Azar, and you never know who or what you'll hear when I spend a Mississippi Minute with my friends. Talking to Paul Thorne, Mississippi true treasure, really incredible recording artist, singer-songwriter, has been doing it a long time, doing it the right way.
It's almost like a Forrest Gump thing because, I was a boxer, / I worked in a furniture factory, / I had a gig 2 nights a week playing my acoustic guitar in a pizza restaurant, / I was in the National Guard, and,
Wow.
All this stuff was going on at the same time. / I had a writing contract with Rick Hall and Fame.
In a Mississippi Minute. Be sure to check out In a Mississippi Minute with me, Steve Azar, right here on SuperTalk Mississippi, the SuperTalk Mississippi app, and now available on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher.
Be sure to go by this station's website and check out the half-off deals. Audubon Zoo tickets for just $15. That's half price. $30 zoo tickets for just $15. Again, go to this station's website or Facebook. Look for the half-off deals logo to purchase yours now.
We give HPV vaccine to children at 11 or 12 years of age. I have 4 children, 2 boys and 2 girls, and I've given the vaccine to all of them.
What decisions are being made by state lawmakers, and how will they affect you, your family, and community? If you listen, you'll know. SuperTalk Mississippi, the SuperTalk app, and at supertalk.fl.
Hi, I'm Billy Kinder, host of Big Billy Kinder Outdoors here, the show Saturdays at 1, right here on SuperTalk Mississippi. Turkeys, whitetail, Grenada Lake crappie, or Gulfport redfish. We enjoy it all, especially when you're in camp with us on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Feeling down? Here's your prescription for a daily dose of good news and positive vibes. Good Things with Rebecca Turner. Every afternoon, Rebecca highlights all the good things happening right here in the state you call home. Daily exposure to Good Things with Rebecca Turner may cause smiling, feelings of positivity, happiness, and even laughter. When you experience these symptoms, tell your friends to listen.
Okay.
Weekdays starting at 2 p.m. here on SuperTalk Mississippi, and now on Amazon Alexa devices.
Everyone knows the only thing better than pizza is free pizza, and right now, buy a $10 gift certificate to CiCi's Pizza for only $5. It's like buying a pizza and getting a pizza for free. Go to our station's website or Facebook. Look for the half-off deals logo to purchase this amazing deal right now.
He's the former president and publisher of the Sun-Herald, and now he's on the radio. Welcome to Coast View with Ricky Matthews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coast View. That was a terrific conversation with Glenn East, the superintendent of schools for the Gulfport school system. He is one of the more important leaders in coastal Mississippi. He's innovative. He's always focused on the future. He's very dedicated to the kids. I love the way he said that. It's not about kids returning to school. It's about them returning to their education, which is to say, by using technology, they'll be able to do virtual classrooms, or kids can learn from the actual classroom. But everything from transportation to how they move kids around, you won't have a bell that rings and all the kids rush into the hallway. That won't happen anymore because obviously they're trying to practice social distancing. So many important things they have to consider. If you missed that conversation, you can go to the SuperTalk Gulf Coast Facebook page, the Mississippi SuperTalk Facebook page, or you can go to any of your favorite podcast platforms and you can get access to it. So now let's shift gears and let's have another conversation with our friend Stephen McRaney, the Deputy Director of MEMA, the Mississippi Emergency Management Agency. We last talked on June the 2nd, Stephen, and Cristobal was kind of hovering over the Yucatan at that stage of the game. Interesting. The forecasts were pretty good, though, weren't they?
They were. We were bracing for one of a real hard hit, and even though our lower 3 counties were impacted, and we were able to get a declaration out of that event to put some of the infrastructure back into place, it didn't go much further and create much damage for us after that.
Yeah, Cal said it afterwards. Cal lives inland. Cal, our producer, and he said afterwards that if you didn't live near water, it just felt like basically a non-event. Although there were some areas that did get substantial rain, but it was spotty. But for those of us who live on water, live near the coast, for a tropical system, for a tropical storm, the storm surge was pretty significant. I've seen that much storm surge with Category 1 hurricanes. So it was just, I think that part surprised some folks, and the damage it did to the beach. It came through the marshes at a time when we're going through this marsh change, and you have all the Spartina grass and other seaweed and whatever. Man, that deposited like millions of tons. Millions of pounds of trash on the beaches.
Yeah, that, and I was talking with Hootie Adams in Hancock County for one, and we were, but between the amount of surge water that was officially recorded in the beginning and what was at the last was about a 2.5 foot, almost 3 foot difference for them. So that's something we're working with as well. With that local community, we're getting a local LIDAR done because we want to get from the new buildup. Once you build something, water pushes somewhere else. I mean, you're never going to not that water from coming in, but it's going to push it into other locations a little bit deeper. And we had a huge amount of debris on the coast, all the way across, neutral rats, etc. So it was almost Katrina-ish and a couple of storms after that age where it brings up in that, and that creates another medical situation that's not real good and healthy. And you've got to move fast. You've got to move real fast to get that debris off and get it back clear.
We've seen this so many times now they said that this particular storm wasn't big enough for this to happen with, that the friction of the opening of the Mississippi River causes it to take a jog to the right. We've seen it countless times, Katrina among them, that this was a tropical storm. It would not have normally felt that friction, but it still did take that path. And instead of going into sort of south central Louisiana, it kind of came in at the mouth of Mississippi and just scooted that way. Because of, like you pointed out, some of the changes that they've made in levee protection for Louisiana have really brought a lot of focus to a lot more storm surge. You mentioned this, and in the Pearlington area and Waveland area and Hancock County in general, we're beginning to see, I think, growing evidence that there could be a problem.
Absolutely, and we even talked about it during the Pearl River flooding in Metro Jackson in the Hinds County area. We very early on said that 35 is the new 39-foot level for that river. So if you look at the buildup, maybe the new 5-foot record is the 7.5 foot now. So being able to document that, and the Department of Environmental Quality and ourselves, we're all doing assessments and redoing those surveys, redoing that flood elevation footprint to see. And then you have the unknown every time, which is, all right, they're opening up the gates in Louisiana. So how is that going to affect us? How many thousands of gallons per minute are coming out of that facility? And where does that meet the surge? And then where does that push? So that's it's almost a crapshoot sometimes trying to figure out all these different components and how high it's going to go, and who should get out, who should get out of that neighborhood and actually go north.
I talked about this on the last show when you and I talked about surge, but I live on Back Bay, and now I live well over 20 feet above sea level. But for Katrina, over 20 feet above, 10-foot waves hitting our house. For any of us who experienced a storm surge, and unfortunately too many people perish as a result of it. What if you want to say that I was a man on a mission, I definitely was. We wrote so many editorials at the Sun Herald, and then when I went over to the Mobile Press Register, we continued to write editorials and stayed in touch with the National Hurricane Center as they went through all this modeling to do a better job at being able to forecast storm surge. That was one of the things that really needed to get more refined. And what I'm hoping is that with this growing body of evidence in Hancock County, and the sense that maybe those models that they're using need to be somewhat tweaked, because 2 or 3 feet at a certain level could be the difference between life and death.
It's a huge difference between being trapped at your residence and you can't get out at a certain time when you normally think the 1 foot you're safe, and you get another 2.5 feet or another 2 feet, you've significantly cut off the pipeline and the actual roadways that people are able to get out and escape from the storm at an earlier time.
So you and I talked about this a little bit offline, but most of the hurricane experts are saying that this is going to be it already is above average season. We have, as of this recording, this is being recorded on Monday for play on Tuesday, but there's a tropical wave south of Louisiana. I'll check the radar just before we came on the air, and it looks like the rain is building around it, but it's going into Texas. There's another tropical wave that's been identified by the National Hurricane Center It's got about a 20% chance of development over the next 5 days. It's supposed to take essentially the same track as the wave that's south of Louisiana now into Texas. And then there's another one at the approaching the Lesser Antilles. It's going to actually get into an area that's not conducive to development, but they still give it a 20% chance of development over the next 5 days. It's on a track very much like Ivan took, for people to kind of understand it. Very low, might skirt to South America. We don't know what's going to happen when it gets in the Caribbean. None of these storms are anything for us to worry about. But the point is, it's active. It's active, and it's going to continue to pick up from here. I call it's going to be a nail biter season. It's going to be put on your seatbelt kind of season. And I pity the community that has to deal with a hurricane during the COVID environment. I know you feel the same way.
Right. The 3 systems that we have currently in the Gulf, I think the key is to prep for each and every one of them. Even though we have a high pressure system, which looks like it's going to keep these things over the water and maybe push it toward Texas, well, that could just as easily make a hook and an end run, and then it could be Mississippi. And that's not unprecedented. So each one of these storms takes the exact same preparation every time, and that's what we do at MEMA. We've already started spinning up our 120-hour time frame in the next 5 days. So we have certain gates and certain things that we bring online, contacting the National Guard, bringing them in, other governmental entities in the state, Department of Transportation, et cetera. So the game plan is the same for every one of these systems as they move across.
What's interesting is, so as soon as you get a yellow X by the National Hurricane Center, it triggers a set of responses that begin to get you guys prepared. Is that what you're telling me?
Exactly, and it's a true and tested time now. Sometimes they speed up, sometimes they'll jump from what we think is 96 hours out, and bam, we're at 40 because it picks up speed. So all of our partners with the state, we have them here with the State Emergency Operations Center. We have 15 to 16 emergency support functions, and they're reporting in daily. So we start getting those daily reports where they are, equipment-wise, manning-wise, and what we can expect.
So this is Stephen McGraney. He's the Deputy Director of MEMA. Really, really important agency this time of year. Well, actually, period, because there's so much you guys are up to. We're going to get into that when we get on the other side of this. So we'll be back after this break.
Get out of the house and over to Big Play today. 2 massive arcades, bowling, go-karts, 2 mini golf courses, a 2-story state-of-the-art laser tag arena, bumper cars, and right now get a $50 game card for only $25. Visit our station's Facebook and print on demand so you can play at Big Play Entertainment Center now. These deals won't last long, so make sure you get your half-off deal. Big Play Entertainment Center, Highway 90, Biloxi. Bowl, play, eat. Go to our station's Facebook to get your half-off deal now.
This is House Call for Health. There may be no greater medical mystery and no greater tragedy than sudden infant death syndrome. It used to be known as crib death. For no apparent reason, a presumably healthy sleeping baby dies. Medical experts don't have clear-cut answers to what causes sudden infant death, or SIDS, but now they have 2 risk factors: smoking and drinking during pregnancy beyond the first 3 months. A new study finds that babies whose mothers drank alcohol and smoked tobacco after the first trimester are at far greater risk of SIDS, 12 times greater. Previous studies showed a risk of smoking and drinking individually. This study says doing both drastically increases the danger. The research is sponsored by the National Institutes of Health, which is calling for greater publicity about the danger and improved screening at the very beginning of a pregnancy. For more health news, go to foxnewshealth.com. House Call for Health. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News.
Let me know if you're en route. 19 Adams, the unconscious, Main Street and West Road, 19 Adams.
A lot of people are just worried about supplies.
Our supplies are getting pretty low, and that gives us great concern.
Aside from the PPE issues, they're really worried about if they are exposed and they have to be away from work for a certain amount of time.
We're going to need some money there. And so that's one way the public can support us as well, is keep sending money into that support fund.
What I really truly hope is that people don't forget that feeling right now of wanting to volunteer and give back to their community.
I hope this doesn't dramatically change the volunteer fire service.
Thousands of Bulldog fans have subscribed to the Thunder and Lightning podcast. Have you? On each episode, Brian Haydad and Joel Coleman give you an inside look at your Mississippi State Bulldogs. The Thunder and Lightning podcast is free and available on demand at supertalk.fm and on your smartphone. Just search for Thunder and Lightning on iTunes, Google Play, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Thunder and Lightning from SuperTalk, Mississippi, covering the Bulldogs like no one else.
Hey, I'm Steve Azar, and you never know who or what you'll hear when I spend a Mississippi Minute with my friends. Talking to Paul Thorne, Mississippi true treasure, really incredible recording artist, singer, songwriter, has been doing it a long time, doing it the right way.
It's almost like a Forrest Gump thing because, I was a boxer, / I worked in a furniture factory, / I had a gig 2 nights a week playing my acoustic guitar in a pizza restaurant, / I was in the National Guard, and, all this stuff was going on at the same time. / I had a writing contract with Rick Hall and Fame.
In a Mississippi Minute. Be sure to check out In a Mississippi Minute with me, Steve Azar, right here on SuperTalk Mississippi, the SuperTalk Mississippi app, and now available on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher.
COVID-19 is a severe lung infection. Trust the American Lung Association for science-based public health information, especially for the 36 million Americans who live with lung disease. We have resources to protect your lung health. Access expertise from medical professionals and peer-to-peer support through our online communities. Visit lung.org for daily updates.
Hey, want to come work for the #1 radio group on the coast? TeleSouth Media has a great opportunity for an outside sales consultant. Get paid while having fun and work in the exciting, fast-paced world of radio. We have award-winning stations like 97.9 CPR Rocks, 105.9 The Monkey, G96.7, SuperTalk 103.1, and 103.5 The Possum. Take the first step towards a new and rewarding career. Submit your resume to Jesse@telesouth.com. That's JESSE at telesouth.com. TeleSouth Media is an equal employment opportunity employer.
Talking to the people that help make the coast such a unique place to live. This is Coast View with Ricky Matthews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coast View. We have Stephen McRaney, the Deputy Director of MEMA, with us. Before we continue with our laundry list of things to talk about, how's your team doing and how's the director doing?
It's sometimes it's kind of like a basketball game. Next 5 people off the bench, and that's what I do for the executive director. Is I'm able to fill in for him where needed, and because he and the governor both like to get out front, and they want to be a part of the local emergency management director's decisions and be able to support them directly. And then I'm usually in the rear with the State Emergency Operations Center and able to take that. And during this COVID response, we've had some long 75 days straight. Sometimes some people had 50. But we've got our personnel on a rest cycle because that's the most important piece of equipment that we have is our personnel. And they have just done a great job here at MEMA. Like, I can't give them enough credit, nor the local emergency management directors. They have been key in this response, as well as since about March of 19, we're at 10 federally declared disasters. So a lot of these counties have been engaged in long track tornadoes from the Easter time frame and whatnot. And then COVID, maybe zombie apocalypse is coming next, or I'm not sure.
Well, yeah, I hear you, man. It just seems like, every day there's a new something we have to deal with. But I can't overstate the importance of the relationship between MEMA, the State Emergency Management Organization, and the local, especially the county directors. Let's talk about how important that relationship is.
I think the most important relationship is between MEMA and the local emergency management directors. They have the pulse on their cities, and as well as their county assets and their communities, and what they're prepared to handle and what they are able to get accomplished and what they need from us. So that's a relationship that it's almost like the coach and the player. that you've always got to have that, and they do a tremendous job. And most of the time, MEMA gets the interview, but it's actually the locals that are doing all the work.
So let's do this. I want to remind people where they can go. There's some people that have been here for many, many storms that still need reminders on what to do to prepare. And there are people who are new to the community who clearly need to go and do some homework and make sure they understand what they need to do. But give them the websites they need to go to really get prepared for the hurricane season.
Yeah, we have the MSEMA.org. That's Mississippi Emergency Management Agency, and that we share links to the local EMA director offices as well. And that's where you can get just a good laundry list of what we should do, what you should prepare for, what do you need, whether it's records, have copies of your records, copies of your prescriptions, and also telling your family and friends where you go, because that's important. If you don't make it back or you don't come back, they can have a way to let local authorities know to help check on you.
We know how important it is for people to stay in touch with their family members. That can't be overstated. Also know what your evacuation plan is. Know what your surge levels are. Know whether you're in zone 1, 2, or 3, and as a result of that, understand the relationship between those zones and whatever the warnings are, or the watches are for the area. There are a lot of surge areas in coastal Mississippi that you really need to pay attention to. Surge causes more death than the wind does. We cannot state that enough, can we?
Absolutely not. And Hurricane Center has, in the past 2 years, has been putting out a lot more surge data because they do realize that that's one of the leading causes of accidents and deaths when you're dealing with hurricanes, and that surge water. And always have a primary and a secondary route, because if your first is actually the surge water's gotten there ahead of schedule, or it's higher, you got to always know your next route out, so to speak.
Yeah, what I like to, because I experienced the surge myself, I like to describe it as the Colorado River after a heavy rain, because it's not just like the water just rises and then falls. The wind is blowing waves on top of it. The water is unbelievably violent and unbelievably destructive, and it would just wipe out everything in its path. So don't think that if the water is going to rise, you can survive it, because chances are you won't if the water ever gets into your house. It's a really, really dangerous situation, unbelievably violent. People just should go read about it if you don't understand about how surge works and how destructive water is. Pay attention to it, because it's really important. Any final thoughts before we sign off, Stephen?
Well, I'll just tell the state, keep doing a good job. That makes my job easier. The preparedness side, as well as we deal with the new issues of COVID. If you're going to have to shelter somewhere, certainly have a mask, and we're preparing for that. We've already been working with the local EMA directors in our places of shelter. So we're definitely prepared here at MEMA, as well as the locals. So let's pray well and hope for the best. Hope's not a way to do it. Have a plan. Hope is not a plan. Have a plan for hurricane season.
Well, this is Stephen McRaney, the Deputy Director of MEMA and a friend to Coast View. We appreciate you joining us, and we'll talk to you again in a couple of weeks.
Thank you, Ricky.
You bet, buddy. Take care, and have a great day.
Follow SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1 on Facebook. Facebook.com/SuperTalk MS Coast 103.1.